to Stories of Brisco and Bradshaw. I would be Bradshaw. That would be Chickasha Hall of Fame and Oklahoma's favorite son, Mr. Gerald Brisco. And we've got a treat today. We got the greatest Q&A ever, and we've got the greatest comedian in the history of God's flat earth. We got Taylor Williamson.
Wow.
Taylor, take it away.
Wow. I was not happy to be here until I heard that, and now I'm really happy to be here. No, I mean it's an honor to be here. Are you kidding me? I'm two Hall of Famers. They're asking me to ask them questions. This is great. So I got a list of questions from all you wrestling fans and Briscoe and Bradshaw fans, and I'm gonna moderate, try to keep some control. These guys are already out of control. They're telling great stories before we press record, and I said this can't happen on my watch. This is not gonna happen. So why don't you tell them? What did you? I was asking about you ever had flight troubles. Tell them what you were telling me.
Yeah, because you were sending your dog like to Malawi or something on its own. Just like, hey, dog, get in the Uber, go on the
No,
plane, and I'll see you like down in East Africa.
My dog's a carry on, and she's my friend. And how dare
Okay,
you?
all right. I got the story a little
Don't get hot, Taylor.
I'm hot.
We were flying.
John. This happened one time. We did a Q&A. Me and Taylor back in the old days when we first started this crap, and the people were sending questions online. Well, I thought they wanted me to answer them then, so I'm answering the questions online. And Taylor said, "Hey, you dumb idiot! Don't do that. Those are questions for later." So
No.
I had to back up all my answers.
Did you call him that, Taylor? That's not nice.
No, that was you while you were inducting him for his Hall of Fame ceremony. That's when you said. That's when that was said. That speech is very funny, by the way. Oh my God.
And by the way, when I finished the speech, I knew that Jerry and Jack had a couple of little cocktails, and instead of shaking their hand and hugging them like you're supposed to do, I exited side ramp. True story. I would not get near them. I really thought they're going to take me down in my tuxedo, and there's nothing I can do about it in front of 10,000 people. And so literally, I was the only one making history to not shake their hand. I saw them, and I just headed straight right and went down the ramp.
If you guys haven't, were you looking to get him, Gerald?
I wasn't, but Jack was. Because and he don't want Jack doing it. I'm used to the abuse, but that was Jack's second time with abuse. First time was in our home state of Oklahoma when him and Simmons took a whiz on the Welcome to Oklahoma sign, and actually nailed it up in the production room so Danny Hodge and Jack Briscoe could see it.
It was not in well.
That seems like something JBL would do in Oklahoma. Pee on the Welcome to Oklahoma sign.
I'd like to pee on the whole state, honestly.
Anyway. Texas are one of those flyover states. You know, when you fly over it, that's when you save it all up. Coming from the East Coast, you go to the bathroom right over the heart of Texas, which is Dallas, and you flush all the toilets. You run around every toilet and flush them. Everybody, what are you doing? Oh, it stinks, and I'm flushing the toilet. So they agree with me.
So what happened, Taylor, was we took a little photo of using the bathroom on the state sign and on Briscoe's shoot working town and his gimmick working town, and with the Polaroid camera, way before cell phones. And I hung them up in catering. And I thought, Briscoe stretched me by this time about 482 times. All right. I've got no victories at this point against him. So I'm 482 and O. He's 482. I'm the O. And in walk Danny Hodge and Jack Briscoe. And I'm like, oh my God. I did not plan on that in the equation. Because I know Jerry eventually is going to let me up because we're friends. I don't know that Jack and Danny are ever going to let me up. It didn't end well. It did not end well at all. I could not do a bench press. I could not do a bench press for about 3 months. Danny Hodge messed my elbow up so bad. True story.
Yeah, Danny walks over to John and does one of these. Not only does he grab his hand, but he grabs his elbow at the same time. He got his elbow with one hand and his hand with the other. So there's no getting loose. There's no shaking or nothing. I can see that thumb starting to bury right there and the JBL's elbow, and I see the redness going to his face from his hands, and he starts squeezing. He starts kneeling down to his knees there.
That's
terrifying. Mr. Hodge let him go.
Yeah, Taylor, it was so bad. Literally, I couldn't do bench press.
So you got any questions to ask, or are we going to just BS all day?
Sir, well, first of all, I have to tie up some loose ends here. First of all, if you didn't see the Briscoe brothers induction ceremony, watch that. Their speech is great. Their induction is great. But the intro. What do you? You. I guess you're the inductor.
I'm the inductor.
You induct the inductees. How does this work? I don't know how
this. I'm putting them Okie legends in the Hall of Fame. That's what I'm doing.
So you got to watch that speech. Both speeches are amazing and have to watch. And JBL's full heel praising and then full heel. It's really wild.
On that speech when I said, and the native got him back when Georgia Championship Wrestling was sold to Vincent Kennedy McMahon. So I told the whole story about, selling Manhattan and all that stuff for a bag of Smiths and some shiny beads, and then ended with Georgia Championship Wrestling. And I could hear Vince laughing from the stage. He never expected that.
Wow. I want to say I love how much you got, like, Oklahoma hates Texas and Texas hates Oklahoma. I'm from California. Like, we think you're both a bunch of rednecks. Like, it's nice that it's fun to watch you guys fight. I got scared. Oh my God.
Where did you get this guy, Jerry? I thought he was funny.
Well, we gave him the truth. He knows the truth, John. I mean, he's been around you before. You and him went to a 5-star general's retirement ceremony, and in D.C. where all the VIPs were and everything. Left me at home on the reservation while you guys were out partying with 5-star generals. And
Taylor did a magnificent job and got a standing ovation at it. He did a wonderful job.
I
didn't know at that time he considered me and you both rednecks that he laughed at.
By the way, you know what? I felt like I was in good company because my suit was too baggy for me.
No, you don't wear skinny jeans because you're a man. Or, well, I don't know about that. But I don't wear skinny jeans because I'm a man.
No one's ever said anything that nice to me. Thank you.
It was a mistake.
No. Can I tell you, I talked to Briscoe about your suits. I was like, I think they look good. I'm a fan of your suits.
Thank you.
Anyways. But you guys didn't tell the story about first question from Taylor Williamson in California. What's a crazy story about flights getting delayed?
Well, the flight wasn't delayed, but we stopped off in Amsterdam on our way to the Middle East, and I won't say who, Road Warriors, stopped off to go see some museums or something, and we saw them like 3 days later.
And they missed shows too.
They missed everything. Jerry was in the office at that time. He could tell you.
They missed Monday Night Raw. They missed Raw.
Yeah.
They missed Monday Night Raw. Yeah, they come to me and said, Briscoe, we had 8 hours. The plane was delayed at Amsterdam, of all places, for 8 hours. We're not going to sit at this airport all damn day. And I said, well, you don't have to. And about 5 minutes later, they come up to me and they said, hey, we're going to go out and see some museums and some artwork here in Amsterdam. We hear it's a really fine city for to see culture. I said, sure it is. So they took off, and I said, hey, guys, we can't hold the airplane. It's not a commercial or private airplane, so it's commercial. When they leave, they leave. So make sure you're here on time. Oh, well, don't worry about it. We'll get there. So it come time for the airplane to leave. We're all looking around the airport, and no Road Warriors and whoever else went with them. But the other guys showed up. The Road Warriors they were too busy studying Picasso artwork, I think, somewhere on the strip down there, or somewhere on the strip, or something about a strip. Anyway, I don't know what it was.
Oh boy!
But they were busy. So next day was Monday Night Raw, and wherever we were going there, and there were no Road Warriors. Briscoe, what happened? Well, they went to see artwork, man. No, there ain't no artwork in Amsterdam.
And do they get in
2 days later? They showed up.
And is there like a fine? Do they?
Yeah, like lost a job, maybe.
Oh wow! Oh, there you go. Wow.
So don't ever go to artwork in Amsterdam unless you got plenty of time.
Yeah,
it's a great city for artwork too, by the way, and architecture.
Oh, that's what I hear about that city is the architecture.
So you really think we're both rednecks?
No, I respect both of you, and I'm terrified of both of you. Can I be honest? Can I tell you?
John, he's supposed to be asking us questions.
Can I tell you, Briscoe is so strong. Like I don't know if people think that you're just being nice to this guy that you look up to and you respect, like, oh, don't hurt me, Mr. Briscoe. This guy is so strong. We did some like minor test of strength once, and it hurt. Like it wasn't just, oh, you're stronger than me. It was like, oh, I'm in pain for hours.
Listen, I don't mean to interrupt. You're hosting this, and you're doing a wonderful job, by the way, Taylor.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
But Gerald Briscoe went to, you saw a picture of him, I think, with Batista on the internet. He went to SmackDown. Everybody treated him like the returning hero that he is. So I see Bruce Pritchard. I said, how was it having Mr. Briscoe down here? He goes, he took down Bo Dallas. Is that true, Mr. Briscoe?
I don't recall that.
He said he took down somebody. And I said he took down. And Bruce thought it was Bo Dallas. So I don't know if Bo Dallas was there or not. I know Bruce said that Jerry took somebody down.
Well, there were some guys running around backstage, and that actually wasn't backstage; it was out by ringside, and just guys that weren't involved in it. And both Bro and Ray Bray is his name. We have a thing going when we see each other. I've known those guys since they're pooping in their diapers, so we have a thing going. Every time I see them, they either attack me first or I attack them. So it's usually whoever sees each other first. So yeah, Bo is walking around visiting with his brother, getting ready to go out of town, go to Mexico, I think, which he didn't make anyway. So I latched on to him, and I got a little heat over it. I got the big guy with 3 letters to his name come up. Why you trying to hurt my superstars? I don't know. They were going to hurt me first, so I think that'll probably be the last time I'm invited to go to a TV shoot.
Oh, that's so cool! I'm so happy you went. That's amazing. Wow. Can I tell you one time at one of those StarCast things, I got jumped from behind by Haku.
Wow.
Yeah, someone clearly told.
Wow.
I swear, and this is real. I never met this guy, and then like someone clearly.
Then.
Yeah, someone clearly was like, "This will be funny. Hey Haku, jump on that skinny Jewish guy. This will be funny." And I was just like, so there's like starstruck mixed with fear, mixed with what is happening right now. And he was happy.
It's scary when you know the guy and he jumped you, let alone not knowing the guy and he jumped you.
Yeah.
He was smiling, but I was like, is this one of those is he one of these crazy people who smiles when he's attacking his prey, or is he having fun? I don't know.
That's what those guys do. They smile when they're attacking you because they're getting so much enjoyment out of it. I used to laugh at John when I attacked him.
Not nice. Not nice, Mr. Briscoe.
Hey, Taylor, do we have any questions out there for Radio Land or whatever land, like podcast land?
Yeah, I got a question for you. From Michelle Falconer, did you learn more in Territory Days or WWE?
Who's that for, Taylor?
Sir, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you this, Michelle Falconer.
I don't work here.
She's a wonderful lady. She's one of our great friends. And so, Mr. Briscoe, you go ahead first. I'll give it to you since you stretched somebody at SmackDown.
Okay, well, I'm totally different because I started in Territorial Days. John did too, but he was right at the tail end of it. So most of my education in the business was in Territorial Days, but we had the pleasure of going around from territory to territory, working with different guys and learning different styles. So if your mind was open to learning, that was a fantastic way to do it because you got to work with so many different people. And people were always, even if you wasn't changing territories a lot, people were always coming through from different areas. So if they were top guys, you'd go out and watch their matches. What are they doing that makes them top guy in Minnesota or top guy in Kansas or top guy in Oregon or LA or wherever it might be? And you go out and you pick up and you kind of latch onto the stuff because they're not going to be back for a year, maybe even 2 years. So you can use a lot of their stuff around where they're at. So it was a learning process through and through. But, that was the working side of it. The business side of it when I went to WWE, I felt like I had already had a good foundation. But the copy the words of the great Bill Watts, I got my PhD at WWE in business management. What makes a business really roll? From Kevin Dunn, the production people out in the truck. I mean, they're geniuses, every one of them out there. And if you want to learn, man, you can learn. And Vince McMahon, to be locked into that one territory all of his entire life. He was so knowledgeable and such a good teacher. And he explained a lot what he was talking about. He just wouldn't say do it because of this. He would tell you why to do it, and it always made sense. So, you kind of in the ring, it was the territorial days, but business-wise, backstage and business-wise, it was definitely WWE.
Yeah, and guys who had the benefit of going through the territories, I was right at the tail end of it, but I got to work a lot of different territories, from Japan to Texas to all over the United States to Mexico, Puerto Rico, Europe for a couple of years. Every territory was vastly different. Memphis was very different from Texas, very different from Mexico, different from Puerto Rico, different from Japan, different from Europe, different from Carolinas. And so you got a real good education of how to get over in a million different situations, which the one thing missing today, I think it's tough for these guys, is they don't have that educational background of that. Now, they do a wonderful job at NXT. I'm not taking anything away from that. I just think for me, it'd be hard because I had so much of that learning that came from different people, great talent. I got the tag team with Dick Murdoch, with Bob Orton Jr. I got to be over in Europe with Finlay and St. Clair. I got to tag with Stan Hansen, work against Stan also. I had some great mentors and people that taught me the business before I got to WWE. But Jerry's right. Once I got to WWE, it's not like it's not even the same genre, sport, entertainment, whatever you want to call it. I remember sitting there at WrestleMania in the Pond and watching Shawn Michaels rappel from the ceiling. And I'd been a lot of places. And I'm thinking, I need to go back to Japan because I don't belong here. It's that overwhelming to a lot of guys when they get to WWE. And I had been a lot of places. And I was still, when I saw that match with Brett and Shawn, I remember thinking, this is a place that I don't think I fit in very well. That's how overwhelming WWE can be.
Wow. And then now you're the guy who's like, well, you've been that for decades, but you're the guy people watch like, oh, well, I don't know if I belong here.
Dude, it took a while. It took a while. It did. It took a lot of guys like Jerry and Barry Windham and Jack Lanza and Ron Simmons. A lot of guys really helping me.
You've been absolutely crushing it coming back in comedy. That's like a compliment. You've been killing it. Like you guys, you're such a mean person, but I like people say heels don't exist anymore. Like you're doing like such a great job. That the promo you cut in Oklahoma about how, or I'm sorry, in Texas. Oklahoma promo was just mean, just straight up mean. That was great too. But the Texas promo where you're just talking about how wonderful the history of Texas is, and I was like, where's he go? Something's gonna happen. Like he's just gonna. I was like, is he doing the Bret Hart thing where he's like over in Canada, just gonna let it be that the Then you start trash talking your Texas people, and they were just like, "What?" That was like masterclass. That should be in the Smithsonian.
It was so over their heads, because he had been in Oklahoma so long, he learned that. So it was so over those Texans' heads, they didn't understand what he said.
That is not nice, Mr. Brisco. That is not nice.
They thought it was the compliments. Is that what happened?
That leads into another question, though, Taylor. And I don't know if it's on your list, but I saw it on our list. How does a guy from Texas and Oklahoma coexist in this podcast? Or we don't really. We afterwards we cuss each other out and all that stuff.
Well, what I don't get about you, Mr. Brisco, is are you an Oklahoma boy or a Florida man?
Oh, good question. Because he moved as soon as he got a car. As soon as he got the ability to get out of Oklahoma, he got out.
You moved to Washington D.C. so you can be close to all your cronies out there.
I love politics.
At least I moved to Florida.
To move right next to Carol Baskin.
Wow. This should be a WrestleMania.
That Tiger King, looks like Michael Hayes' meth addicted son. He moonwalks, by the way. He does. He was right there near Gerald Brisco, and then Gerald Brisco moved right next to Carol Baskin. You can't tell me that is not a coincidence. No way.
Brisco, is there something you want to tell us? Is there something you want to tell the jury?
Carol's a mighty nice lady.
He knows
He didn't want to
something.
get he didn't want to get eaten by a tiger.
Oh boy. Wait,
Yeah, they're right down the street here, just a couple of miles down the street here. So I'm not going to get a tiger. There's been sightings of tigers loose in our yard here. So.
Oh boy. I have a question from Jim DeRoy or DeRoy. Favorite beer?
Coors Light for me.
Cold beer.
Free.
Yeah, free cold beer. How about that? That's our favorite beer.
Wow. Okay. Jason Brown says, "Was
I'm a Budweiser man. Actually, I like old school Budweiser. You know, it's a real beer, the king of beers.
do you guys want to?"
JBL probably liked that Pearl beer or Lone Star beer.
Oh my goodness. We used to have Lone Star when I worked on a ranch when I was a kid. All the cowboys would drink it because it was $1 for a case. It was the worst beer ever. Everybody drank, oh, this is the greatest beer ever. No, it's not. It's just cold and it costs $1 a case.
Jason Brown says, "Was Bruce ever considered to be an on-air character again, or one of the Stooges?"
Oh, good question, Mr. Brisco.
Well, Bruce would have he would have been the main stooge, and it would have taken away from me. So, Pat, and Bruce, they were always talking these things where I come out on the end of it, you know, and Pat was always looking good, but Pat, Bruce, I don't think Bruce was so valuable and so important backstage and creating the shows and creating everything, that once he did his on-screen character with Brother Love, that you can't top that. So I think he just kind of retired from the old camera stuff. So no, as far as I know, there was never anything. Sergeant Slaughter was one of the original Stooges. We were the first, the three
right.
Stooges. There was Pat, Sarge, and myself. So that's all they needed was three. So Bruce wasn't included at that time. No.
Wow.
And that was a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to be on camera and also do work behind the scenes because you got so much you got to do or memorize whatever else. It's just it's tough to do.
Do you get paid double when that happens?
As Skandar Akbar used to say.
Yeah.
I worked the show
piano.
3 times, and I said, and somebody, Dick Murdoch goes, "You know, we're getting paid 3 times," and I was thought, this is great. The Akbar just.
Did you know?
In other words, no.
Exactly. In other words, no.
Did you know that Bruce Pritchard invented the Three Stooges?
I did. Yes,
know that, yes. I knew it. Bruce invented the headlock. He ever tell you that story, Taylor? I know you and Bruce make these midnight calls because he knows John's asleep and he knows I'm asleep and you're on the West Coast. So when he gets in, he can always call you out there on the West Coast and you'll be awake and you'll listen to him. You'll be polite like you are. You're polite, very polite young man. And so, Bruce, what was the question again? Something about
Bruce is doing everything. And we just found out that this is huge, that Bruce calls Taylor every night.
Every night. His wife goes to sleep and then he still wants to talk, so he calls me. Yeah. And AJ Lucio says stories on Haku. I told mine.
Haku used to go eat with me and Ron all the time, and thank God he was our friend. So
I'm sorry, Taylor, but your internet sucks. Your internet sucks, and I didn't hear the question.
Am I? Hey, wait, is this? Wait. Hey, JBL, is this a guy who's in his Florida basement saying that my internet's not working?
Exactly. Yeah, he got that Okie internet he brought with him from freaking Stillwater, and somehow there's a problem.
Wow, this is called gaslighting, sir. You're gaslighting us.
Yeah, you're gaslighting. Haku stories, Mr. Brisco. Haku.
Well, I'm gonna take this, man. I had
You're complaining about Did Haku break your Spectrum internet?
Did he break my sexual unit? Did he what?
Well, that's another question. That's my next question. Sir, is this a family? This is not a family show.
Hey, Taylor, I will tell you this about Haku.
Yes, it is.
when we did the invasion, not we, the DX did the invasion over at we were in Norfolk or wherever we were. They're pretty close together. We didn't know if they're going to come back or not. So Gerald Brisco went around and told the guys, kind of step out there and make sure that Vince gets out of here okay, because we didn't know what would happen. So you had the Harris boys out there, me and Ron. You had Shamrock and Blackman, which really all you needed was Shamrock. But we always thought if they send Haku over, we're just going to send out Shamrock, and we're going to watch them fight for the next 10 years because that's going to be the greatest fight in the history of the world.
Oh my God. Brisco, did Haku ever do anything to you?
Internet sucks today.
Well, now I'm stuttering because I'm nervous trying to figure out if I should ask about your sexual unit or just in general. Tell us the Haku story.
I'm really fortunate about Haku. I met Haku when he was 17 years old, and JBL's heard all these stories. When a new guy comes in, especially a young guy, my brother and I would always latch on to him because we like to have a few adult beverages on the road, and of course you can't. So we would latch on to one of these young guys and have them be our driver, and we wouldn't charge them anything. Back in the day, those days, they charged you for transportation. Other guys would charge you for transportation. So we just told, hey, you sit behind the wheel and you drive us while we have fun and everything, and we won't charge you. So Haku was driving. We get out past the city, then all right, Haku, take over, and he'd get behind the wheel, and man, he'd drive 30 miles an hour. He'd just puddle along. Come on, Haku, pick it up. And it come to find out, we found out he didn't know how to drive, and he didn't have a driver's license. He's only 17 years old. He didn't ever driven a vehicle. We had him driving his road to Florida at 17 and without a driver's license. And we basically taught Haku how to drive. So we always had those King of the Ring, our leader of the pack T-shirts where we'd tussle with everybody. But everybody, except Haku, we just gave him an honorary leader of the pack shirt and told him it's his to keep alive. So.
Can he be arrested now because you're admitting that Haku was driving illegally? What's this? That other law?
He's legal now.
He's wait. Was a few years ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. Hopefully, most of the law enforcement people are probably gone by now.
Can I tell you, JBL, when I was doing this, I did a little Q&A show with Mr. Brisco back in the day, and I found that most of the answers to be confessions to crimes that can no longer be prosecuted due to statute of limitations.
He admitted that he and Michael Hayes ran over Tommy Wildfire Rich with a car. And I don't mean like bumped into. They ran over him. They hit him. He went on the hood
with intent.
Yeah, they ran over Tommy Wildfire, the hottest baby face in the country. Now forget that though. It's a felony. That's attempted manslaughter.
Right.
And they both thought it was the funniest thing ever.
He's laughing. He's giggling.
When Tommy Rich was on the show with us, we said, Tommy, what would happen? He goes, well, if I'd have got hurt, the boss would have been mad. That's all he said. It was illegal. They could have killed him.
All his stories. I was driving drunk with Andre the Giant, and then we got pulled over, and the cop was like, "Hey, you're with Andre? Hey, get my kid into the show. We're good." I was jumping off a cliff with Rowdy Piper.
How about when he attempted murder on Steve Kern at the bottom of the Gulf? Steve Kern is at the bottom of the ocean. Oh, that was the way it was. Steve Kern attempted murder.
That was the other way around, John. Yeah.
The other way around, yeah. Steve Kern admitted to attempted murder on Gerald Brisco. He cut off his air at 30 feet underwater. He thought it was funny.
And somebody...
And Steve Kern shot Barry Windham with a 9mm. Shot him.
As they were out shooting street side that he confessed to. So
that's right. He was shooting a street sign, it bounced back and hit Barry Windham in the leg, shot him in the leg, and Barry went rolling down the hill.
Are you hurt, Barry? Hell no.
Yeah.
And somebody got kicked out of Disneyland for smoking in the parking lot, or was that not you? That was someone else.
That wasn't me. No, that wasn't me. That was the guy we spoke of earlier.
Oh, well, who will? It's somebody we spoke of earlier who we won't name, but people can guess.
Midian. He's not around. So Midian.
Midian's around.
And a. Okay, yeah, I
Midian.
just saw him a couple of nights ago.
He's right here.
I just saw him a couple of nights ago.
Well, tell him I said hello. And did he have a nice fanny pack on?
Yeah, he did. A nice one.
Good. Gucci?
Yeah, Gucci one, yeah.
Nice, beautiful. Daniel Colton, what was it like wrestling Danny Hodge? I think that's for Mr. Brisco.
Wow. Danny was, he was my childhood hero. Danny was the inspiration of both me and my brother getting into the professional wrestling business. Because Danny's home was just a few miles from where we grew up. That's the reason he was upset by John urinating on the sign of Oklahoma, because Danny's right in that neighborhood there. So, but Danny was great until you get in a little flurry. You know how you do some of those chain wrestling moves. Danny was great until you get into that, and all of a sudden, I think he would start having flashbacks, because he wrestled for our competitor, University of Oklahoma, and we were, of course, Oklahoma State. I think he would get out there and he would lose his thought wave for a couple of seconds and have flashbacks to the old college days, and he'd get a little stiff, so you just kind of freeze up and let Danny do what he wanted to do, because you weren't going to stop him and wait until he kind of calmed down and said, Daddy, calm down. This is Savannah, Georgia. This is St. Petersburg, Florida, or wherever the hell you were. And, it's not Norman or Stillwater. And try to get him back to reality. But Danny was such a pleasure to work with, but he was also scary as hell, because, and a course of a match, when you're really going, and John can back this up, no matter how careful you are, when you're really going out there, there's going to be stiff punches thrown. And you didn't want to go get a little silly with Danny Hodge and throw a stiff punch, because you knew you had a receipt coming. And his receipts were something that you didn't want to receive. So you were very, very cautious when you were working with Danny. But if you laid back on him, he would press you more and make you go, because Danny liked the guy coming forward on him. He didn't like the guy backing off on him. So you really had to focus on what you were doing, and focus not to be too stiff on him, or he would have those flashbacks. Next thing you know, you'd be counting those lights there. So, what a fun man to be in the ring with, share the ring with.
Talk about a flashback. We were one time when Ken Shamrock first came in, we're sitting there holding him, and Boss Man's going to hit him with his nightstick, and Boss Man could be a little long sometimes on that, and he busts Ken's mouth open, and pretty bad. And right away, Ken turns back into like the UFC 1, and you feel him just start to swell. And we're holding him, and Ron goes, "That was Boss." And Ken started laughing. Thank God.
I met Ken Shamrock at a Taco Bell in San Diego in like 1997.
Is there a story to this?
That's the story. It's not my show. I got they're not good stories, but I'm going to throw in I'm hosting this thing. I'm in charge.
Did he buy you a Taco Bell, or did you have to buy him one?
No, it was you guys used to do meet and greets at really wacky places. Do you remember this?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, I met Undertaker at an Albertsons. I'm not joking. Like, what can we get you guys in, like something like a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse or something,
One time we're at a Walmart, and Godfather goes in to get something. Me and Ron are out in the car, and this guy comes by, and he just turns into the biggest pest. And he goes, "Oh, it's APA." And he tries to get in the car with us, all this stuff, like, oh, and so we can't get rid of the guy. So we said, "Hey, man, Ron goes, the Godfather is in there." And he goes, "Can I get an autograph, you guys?" And I said, "We'll give you an autograph if you'll go in there and grab the microphone and tell everybody that the Godfather is in Walmart."
Did he do it?
Oh yeah, he did it.
Wow, that's
awesome.
That's some mental jujitsu. That's some Jedi mind trick to turn a pesty, annoying fan into your henchman.
That's right. Godfather's in there forever. He was so mad. He goes, "Who in the world would announce they're in there? I'm not working. I don't know why somebody would do something." And Ron was like, "Yeah, that's just wrong. That's just wrong."
That's what they got to teach in NXT. This is the kind of stuff they got to teach in NXT. You got to do it guest class. You guys, I can't speak this morning. I've been awake for 3 minutes. I think when I'm tired, I have a articulation disorder, but or it comes back. I had to go to a speech therapist when I was a kid, and it comes back. Do you guys pity me? No.
I feel sorry for you, Taylor.
We feel sorry for you.
Really?
No.
Thank you.
No.
I gotta do my diction
Next.
Well, no one cares about me. Okay. Can I tell you, JBL, all of the reviews on my Q&As with Brisco, I don't know why your show was canceled. It was like, that guy Taylor talks too much. He's so annoying. Anyways, so thanks for having me. Colton Driver, who did you, I don't understand this question. I'm gonna skip it. But we shout out to Colton Driver. And who did you want to work with and then you didn't want to work with? It's kind of a negative question. Was there someone that you really were excited to work with and you're like, oh, never mind?
I think that we never got to work with. Is that right?
Oh, is that what that means? Okay, there was a spelling error. Okay, that's a better question. Who's someone that you really wanted to work with but you didn't have a chance to? I like that question.
Oh, Magnum TA. Magnum TA or even Luger. I never got to work much with Bret Hart, even though I was there. Bret was in a different level than I was. So I never got to work much with Bret. I did get to work with Bret, which was awesome. But Magnum TA to me, he was such a great babyface and a big, strong guy. And Luger was so over. I think both those guys would have been fun to work with. Especially with the JBL character, because I really liked cowering away from the big, tough baby faces. And Magnum TA just personified that. How about you, Mr. Brisco? Do you ever have anybody that you wanted to work with that
you mentioned one of them. Back, I was fortunate where I got to work with, during my time, all the greats. But a few years later, when I was getting into the WWE, Bret was one of the guys. Bret had such a wrestling style that I always thought that we could really, really have some good matches. Bret Hart was probably the number one, and then of course Owen was just magnificent in the ring also. But
my internet's breaking again.
But Shawn Michaels would have been a great guy to be in a share of the ring with also. So it would, modern day would be Bret and Shawn because of their styles and their fire and their technical style of wrestling. But back in my days, Nick Bockwinkel was a guy that I never got to share the ring with ever, anywhere that I went. And I was disappointed in that because Nick was another guy who just had that flowing style of work and just a magnificent worker. And anybody that never seen him, check him out. He was a wonderful person and a wonderful competitor in the ring.
Yeah, and as a tag team, it's different. There were some great tag teams, in the 70s and 80s, from the Funks, the Briscoes, Steiners. I think those guys I thought would be awesome. But the team that I would love the APA to have worked with was Ricky and Robert. Those guys sold so well, and we were so much bigger than them that's to me is a perfect matchup. The baby face that's small, that's really freaking over. And those guys were amazing, and still wrestling and still are amazing guys. But that would have been fun for me and Ron to work with two smaller baby faces that were so over and so good in the ring.
Very cool. James Carter. Oh my gosh, the president. Wow. Look at you. Jimmy, shout out to Jimmy.
He's going formal now with James. Yeah, he's trying to. He is a huge wrestling fan. His whole family was. Mom Maybell. She was a big fan. I think was it Mother Maybell? No, that's a Carter family though, wasn't it? Maybell Carter.
Wrong.
So we're on the shuttle one time.
We're on the
shuttle one time from D.C. to New York, and get on the plane. And Hillary Clinton, when she's a senator, gets on the plane. And literally, I'm sitting in the exit row aisle. It's no first class. And she sits right across from me in the exit row aisle, Secret Service in front and back of her. And she leans over and she says, "Where are you guys at today?" It blew me away. Blew me away. And I said, "Well, we're in the garden." And she goes, oh, man, Bill and I used to go. And I thought, oh, no way. She starts mentioning Bill Watts and JYD and all these guys that they used to go and watch in Arkansas. She was a big wrestling fan. Not just charming as she could be, completely different from what you see on television. I said, would you love to come to the Garden today? She goes, oh, my God, I'd love to. She goes, but I can't. I got stuff I got to do the whole time. She goes, but I'll take a rain check on that. But really not, super nice lady, very disarmingly pleasant, and just a huge wrestling fan.
That's awesome. Wow. Mr. Brisco, you ever meet a first lady?
No, well, yeah, I met what was her name? Ford, Mrs. Ford, and I was coming back from L.A. Betty Ford Clinic. That's the reason, because I was drinking Bloody Marys.
Were you in the clinic when you met her?
Oh no, it was 7 o'clock at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. We were on a plane heading from Dallas to Tampa, and I was drinking Bloody Marys. You're sitting there, you get that welcome drink. I'm not going to turn down a free welcome drink, so I'm sitting there down in my Bloody Marys. In walks Betty Ford. She sits down, and her staff, one sits on the other side of me. I'm sitting aisle. He sits there. He said, "You know who that is over there while you're drinking 6 o'clock in the morning?" I said, "No, who is she?" He said, "Betty Ford." Wow. And I told you that. I said, "Betty, good morning." I told you that. The wrong thing to do, but she was a nice lady too. That's the only first lady I ever met, and that was under those circumstances.
You look at you two hanging out with first ladies.
Heck yeah.
Well, they were attracted to us.
Wow. You don't know. You never know. You never know unless you ask, Mr. Brisco. That's a lesson.
She said I had something in common with her husband, Gerald Ford, besides the first name. We're both Geralds, and we're both left-handed too, by the way.
Wow. Wow.
You notice, did you have anything in common? Holding my drink in the left hand.
Did you have anything? Did she tell you have anything in common with Bill Clinton? All right, we're gonna move on. All right.
That's just not nice.
Listen. He did a lot of great things, and you do too. That's something in common. You were both on TV a lot in the 90s. Ben Seeley says, "Ever wish you hadn't done something to get heat?" I'm just reading questions that are here. Is there anything that you did to get heat that you're like, ugh?
Why would anybody ask me that?
I'm just the question. I'm the messenger. I think that was directed to Mr. Brisco, honestly.
Well, I think it was directed to Mr. Layfield because in the ring he probably didn't, but in his interviews he knew he was going to get heat, and I'm sure he regretted some. John, what are some of the things you said?
What are some? Yeah,
you can't say any of them anymore.
You can't say none of that anymore. No.
When you're doing promos every night, I was doing them every night in live events, trying stuff every night. You do some stuff that doesn't work. And I regretted more stuff that didn't work than it necessarily was tasteless or whatever. I was a heel. I was trying to figure stuff out. And to me, anything that you said out there that got a reaction, good, bad, tasteless, whatever it was valuable because you put it in the bag. And you either knew not to do that again, or you knew to go forward with something, or something didn't work completely. So I never had the same promo night after night. It was always different. So there were times it worked really well, times it didn't work at all. Times I said stuff I probably shouldn't have said. Not probably. I shouldn't have said.
No.
But I was always trying. I was always trying to figure out. I was always pushing that envelope and that edge. I was always right on that edge. And there were times definitely I crossed it. But those times were valuable too, because I realized that was the limit. So it was always a learning experience to me being out there, was because I was always wanting to try something different and see what worked and what didn't.
Wow. I mean, that is fascinating. Like in comedy, it's the same thing. This show's not about me, but bands can work out in front of in a garage and see what works, what doesn't work. We have wrestlers doing promos and comedians. You have to go on stage and you don't know where the line is until you see the reaction from the crowd.
So I tell you
what was the worst thing. What was the worst thing you ever said to Taylor in front of the crowd?
Listen, comedy is like, there's jokes I said on America's Got Talent on the family-friendly show. You get past lawyers for things that you can legally say on TV. Then you get past the producers who say things we don't want you to say because if it's appropriate or not. There's things that said America's Got Talent that I won't say on stage now. It's just times change. It's weird.
Yeah, times change.
And
But
it's not
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something I did that was just this. This is why you always need to try stuff in live events, and you always got to. That's why I would never want to do the same promo, same match, nothing. I was overseas one time, and I was just making a joke. I said, I'm gonna. I said, got the microphone. It's like the old "Don't Chant USA" from the Sheik. I said, I'm gonna sing "God Bless America" to this crowd. And I would sit out there and I would sing "God Bless America," and it got more heat than you could possibly imagine. I never dreamed. I was doing it as a rib for the boys backstage, just a joke. And then we're in Portugal for almost 15 minutes. The entire crowd would sing their national song. Then they go from one national song to the next. And I'm sitting out there literally for about 15 minutes while this entire arena is just singing songs, trying to get at me, throwing stuff. It was amazing. Best part was I would have Chimmel carry the American flag around the ring while I would sing "God Bless America." So who are you going to throw stuff at? So Chimmel would be in his suit and just get besieged with beer and cokes and everything. And when I get stuff thrown at me, I'd always stand right by Chimmel and I'd hook his arm where he would get hit with everything.
And that works with your characters too, so he has to play along with it, right? That's so good. That's right.
But I never dreamed that would get heat. I just did it as a joke one time, and it got so much heat overseas. And I just started doing it every night, and it was the same reaction every night. People hated me doing that.
And people need to go back on YouTube. Some guy's been posting all these legendary clips from, who is it? Is that NWA, Brisco? So that you can see, is that what it is? Yeah, right. So they have the whole, they have Brisco Brothers, the whole journey of Brisco Brothers versus who was it?
Youngboat.
Youngblood. Ricky Steamboat and Youngblood, and you get to see heel Brisco cutting promos, and like for people like me who grew up watching and loving Attitude Era Brisco and Patterson, it's so cool to see him heel Brisco, and it's a unique heel that you don't see today, and he's just a jerk. It's great.
Thanks, Taylor.
Wait, well, let me ask a question. What's the most retaliatory response you've had from a crowd? Like, what did you say that caused, and then what was the reaction? If you can pick one, like, oh, I went too far.
John's a pro on that one there.
I had a riot in Texas with Dick Murdoch. I can't say what I said because back then it was okay to say stuff like that. Nowadays you can't. And it was bad. I mean, we were wrestling the Von Erich boys, and it was like quarter beer night for a bunch of servicemen, and they had like a 45-minute intermission. And as soon as I go to the ring, somebody hits me with a beer, and I punch the guy, and I get hit like with 3 or 4 fists at the same time. I go to the microphone, and I cut the most scathing promo. And Dick Murdoch looks at me and goes, "You're the dumbest sumbitch alive." And literally, the fans are piling in the ring on me and Dick. Terry Von Erich comes out, and thank God, he had enough sense to go, "Stop! Let me handle it my way." And he saved us from the crowd. And we get out there, and Kerry goes, "Get heat on me." And I said, "Hell no." Put the claw on me, we're going home.
Oh, wow. What about you, Mr. Brisco? No comment?
Well, it had to be in West Texas. No, it had to be in West Texas, working with the Funk when my brother would go out. We'd, of course, natural heels in Texas. I don't know why, but we'd be against the Funks. And I'm sure I've said something bad, negative about Texas, as John can tell you, being a female anatomy part or something like that, the entire state. And they rushed the ring, and Killer Carl Cox came out and saved my brother and I. He worked one of these big, long 8-foot chains. He'd just twirl that chain like that, and he'd like Moses clearing the ocean there, the sea. And we just followed out and stayed under that. So what do we do, Jack? He said, "Stay as close to Killer as you can, man." We stayed as close to Killer all the way back to the dressing room. But yeah, those Texans, they had no sense of humor back in those days.
That is what it sounds like. It sounds like people in Texas are just really wild and.
Oh, you played out there, Taylor. You played out there several times. I mean, how is their sense of humor out there? Your favorite spot. You keep going back to the same spot, and
I probably work Texas more than any other state. Honestly, there's so many cities. I have a great time. Wait, what am I doing here? I love Texas. I love performing in Texas. I can't wait to come back to performing in Texas. I love working. I
That's
love
not
paying my
what you tell me
mortgage.
when you come after your show, man.
Mr. Briscoe wants to help me get shot at to help my career. He has this
Oh, that'd be
obsession with.
great.
Don't you think that'd be great?
Oh my God,
The guy don't have to. He don't have to kill him. You're just a flesh wound, you know. And there's guys
just
out in
wing
Texas
you.
that are good shots. You know?
Oh, there's some great shots down in Texas. Just have one of those guys wing you. Seriously, just like it's like a part of the shoulder, part of the arm.
It don't hurt much.
Yeah.
Don't encourage this. Don't. I was in Dallas.
Yeah,
He's like,
I keep telling you, Taylor, you want to enhance your career. Let me set somebody up while you're up there on stage, and you say one of those California jokes that you got that don't get over Texas crowd, and one of those Texans get mad. He said, "I'll teach you to knock Texas like that," and just give him a flesh wound, just a minor flesh wound. It would be all over the world, man. Taylor Williams, comedian, gets shot while telling woke joke in Texas.
Oh, it'd be bigger than Will Smith.
I like performing in Texas because they got those signs on at the comedy club. They have signs, please don't bring your guns inside. And I'm like, good Lord, where am I? and then Bruce Pritchard.
Wild West, baby.
And then Bruce Pritchard comes and he's like, let's go to Tilted Kilt after this. And I'm like, what is going on here? Briscoe says, let's go to Hooters. Bruce Pritchard's like, let's go to Tilted Kilt. These guys are a bunch of animals, you know? Listen,
we were in Joburg one time. I think Mr. Briscoe was the agent, probably with Tony Gurria, and they had all these guns. They're piling up at the entrance, and Ron Simmons was cutting a promo every night that was just, scathing promo every night. Scathing. So we gets up on stage. We had all these guns that we saw when we come in, so we know people got guns inside. Ron gets up and he's got laser dots all over him. Just pins and not guns. But anyway, still the whole scene of the guns and the laser dots. Ron grabs the microphone and he goes, I want to tell you. And he starts to go into his promo and he goes, the nation of domination is great. Tell him, Crush. Crush grabs the microphone and goes, yeah, and throws the microphone like it's hot.
Let me ask
John,
you.
I got a question too. Those back in those days of those laser pins, they had to be scary as hell at times.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You had no idea what was going to happen. We still had jumpers, jumping in the ring, especially when you're a heel. And it was nerve wracking. I told the story many times. Finley saved me from getting stabbed in the back in Vienna. And we used to have laser pins. And I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Because they hated the heels.
Oh, my God. When you were cutting a heel promo that was like really vicious, would you run it by... if I'm not speaking out of school here, like would you run it by your opponent and say, do you think this is too much, or was it fun to surprise them with everything?
I never. That's a great question. It's because I never wanted to one up my opponent. Some guys did because it was just kind of fun. You do that, kind of house show just to have some fun. But you want to draw money in a promo. You don't want to one up your opponent. You want to do something that puts people in seats, not make you the better promo of the two. You don't win out of that. If I'm a better promo than my opponent, so what? That people aren't going to come see you for that. They want to come see you because of sometimes of heat driven. Nearly every opponent, I don't think I've ever had told a opponent that here's what I'm going to say. They knew I was working, and they knew that I was trying to put people in seats, and so I never felt bad about anything that that I was saying enough to go to them. Now with Eddie, it was a little different because Eddie would give me the lines.
Oh,
no. I would have never said some of that stuff if it hadn't been for Eddie. Because Eddie was such a good friend. He came up with a line and goes, "I got one for you, Essay. Tell them my ancestors come over here in a boat, not an inner tube." So that was ready.
Wow. By the way, did you know you're featured on WWE 2K22 in the Rey Mysterio showcase mode?
No, I had no idea. Was Rey beating me again?
Can I tell you? I don't want you to get too excited, but the game is free as of yesterday on PlayStation Plus, and I downloaded it yesterday, and I saw that you're on it, so I played your Rey Mysterio, and I played against you. And it's really special because it cuts from real live footage because it's Ray telling the story of his career. So it shows all his special matches with people like yourself and Eddie Guerrero and stuff. So anyway, so I played against you and I lost. I think the game's broken, honestly, but I don't know how that happened. But you're pretty good on that game. Respect.
On the game, he said, John.
Yeah, on the game. Yeah, I caught that.
That's a compliment. It's a specific compliment. You're very good on the game.
But in real life, but in real life, you're saying he's not. Just on the game, he's very good.
You're very good. You know what I said? You're very good in real life as well. I never wrestled in real life. I've never wrestled him in real life. Okay. Listen, these comments are gonna be wild. Tell the people in the comments to be nice to me, will you please? James Carter. We never even got to President Carter's question. Who has more failed attacks, Bruce or JBL?
Well, Mr. Briscoe is the expert on this, but I can tell you, I believe for a fact. Now, I was around Jerry a lot on international tours where I took a lot of shots at Jerry and didn't do well. I think Bruce probably has taken more over the course of his lifetime than I have. Is that true, Mr. Briscoe?
And they're both cheaters. I'll start out with I'll start out. Yeah, you're both cheaters. You're both are break every rule that Hoyle, whoever Hoyle is. He broke every Hoyle book rule that there is in the book, and he does have a book. I've said the rules according to Hoyle or something like that. But JBL internationally was tough, but the great thing about international JBL, neither one of us would remember the next day until we saw all the scars on our elbows and our knees. You know, that something had happened that night before, and one of the talent would come along and say, "Hey, you guys were out in the parking lot again." You know, so Bruce was more of a hotel rat or apartment rat type guy. You know, and so we always had carpeted floors, and I always made sure that I'd rub his bright, shiny forehead. He had one of those foreheads like you, Bruce, does. So I'd just rub that forehead a little bit in the mat. You know, just give him a little burn so when he woke up in the morning, he would remember something that happened with that burn up there on his head.
You're a bunch of children.
Nice guy.
Yeah, the thing how bad guys were. This is guys would not. I was getting married and I had to lose. I lost a loser leaves town match, the Freebirds. So I was supposed to do it the week before, but the TV got messed up, so I was going to do it actually the night before that I was getting married. So Michael Hayes and Bam Bam and those guys spent the entire match trying to get rug burns on me or bust my nose or black my eyes so that I couldn't take pictures for my wedding. They finally got my eye. They got my nose. I got a big swollen nose and a black eye. Guys used to think that was funny. And I still do. I'll tell you, the greatest story ever with Briscoe and Bruce was Scott Armstrong telling his first day in the WWE when he sees Bruce sitting on a couch in the hotel lobby. Briscoe comes in and Bruce starts berating him. And he says as soon as Jerry checked in, got his ticket, he dropped his bags and ran and did a flying crossbody onto Bruce on the couch. The couch, Bruce and Jerry all fell over in the lobby in front of everybody. That was a typical night.
You're all crazy. What? Was there never like a mom?
That was 7 a.m. in the morning.
Was there never like a mom backstage who like you guys like felt bad for like who like saw you and like you're like you're right, I'm sorry, we shouldn't have done that. But there's no like mother figure.
No.
Linda.
Only thing we ever felt sorry for.
Only Vince.
Yeah.
Linda didn't look down upon you.
No.
We were very polite around Linda.
Yeah, that's right. We were a different crew around Linda.
I could see you all wrestling, and then Linda walks by. Hi, Mrs. McMahon, and then she walks away. Then you continue fighting.
Exactly, that's how it was.
Listen,
the greatest ever.
It was always, you know, when you go to these WrestleMania and Linda's staying at the WrestleMania hotel, you always dreaded when that elevator door would open. You never knew who that door would open with in that elevator. You know, Well, sometimes it'd be the entire family. Oh, I'll take the next one. No, come on, get on. Oh man, I don't want. I hadn't showered yet, or something like that. No, go ahead.
You know what? She might
right,
be able.
John. I mean, you were bad too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you didn't. Yeah. I'll get the next elevator. It looks full.
She might. If you want to get
on the bike on the dark matches or even the matches before Raw, when he would tell the referee to cup check Chimmel. So Chimmel, right when he would get ready to say something, he had the referee go by and whack right in the balls. Just backhand him as he walked by, just to mess up Chimmel's entrance.
If there was a personal injury attorney listening to this podcast, they'd be salivating. They're like, "What's Tony Chimmel's phone number? I'm gonna call him. Let's make some money off of this." This is wild. Shame on all of you. That's the worst. What do you call it? Cup check? What's your strategy? In high school, it was the two fingers. I never understood how they did it, and it hurt a lot. Is that what was
you had to wet your finger.
Terrible.
And you had to get them both just right. You couldn't get too much on there, or you would slip right off. So you just wanted to write them out so it kind of stick before it slid.
Okay, I'm uncomfortable. Now I'm going to sue you, and now I'm going to call my attorney just for seeing you act that out. I'm uncomfortable. I'm going to call Linda McMahon. Might be a good person to talk to if you need to get out of some of these warrants for your arrest from years ago. Have you ever asked her for help like that? No.
John?
Yeah, he's talking to you. Yeah, you're the one that ran over Tommy Rich.
That's true.
In the car.
JBL never got caught. Okay, you did. Listen, Dana Carvey says
I haven't been caught. I am.
Oh, you just confessed to all your crimes. Dana Carvey was on Howard Stern talking about how he calls Senator Al Franken, your buddy Al Franken, he calls him former SNL alumni. He calls him for like legal help, like he had to help someone to get a visa or something, and Al Franken connected him. Do you guys ever use your wrestling?
I went to Iraq with Iraq several times now. I no knowledge of whatever happened over there, what didn't, but Al is a good friend, and Al is a very good man, and I wish he was still senator.
That's awesome.
I'll tell you a funny story on Al. We were sitting there in I think it was Abu Ghraib, because I remember because they made some jokes about the dogs, and Al was dressed as Saddam Hussein, and in real life, Uday and Usay had just been killed. So he's out there, I think, with Carrie Turner, who's a wonderful actress, beautiful lady, wonderful person. And he's handcuffed, and he's dressed like Saddam Hussein in Iraqi uniform. He looks remarkably like him. He had all the Hollywood makeup on, all this stuff. And we get mortared during their performance. And so they say, run to the bunker. So we run to the bunker, and the guy with the handcuff keys for Al is in the other bunker. And so we're getting hit with mortars all around us. And I look around, and there's Saddam Hussein next to me handcuffed, and it's Al Franken. And I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but you're screwed either way. Your guys are going to do unspeakable things to you.
Oh, my God.
Al's a great guy. I love Al Franken.
I think he's going to be the Daily Show host just retired, Trevor Noah. So they're having guest hosts for weeks at a time. And I think Al Franken's going to be doing it coming up.
He's a very talented guy. He should be.
That should be fun. Next question from James Hughes. A good Vince McMahon story of his generosity. James Hughes is the code name, is Vince McMahon's fake name he uses when he asks people to ask questions on podcasts.
Jerry, you saw so much of that. Go ahead.
Well, I tell you, a lot of times, I'd like to just reflect back on, my high school wrestling team when we were in need of a match or anything like that. I go around and ask for donations and all that. Vince was the first one to pony up, and Vince didn't want me to go around hitting talent up. He just, how much you need, and I'd tell him how much I need, and sure enough, we'd have a check there, you know, to cover the expense for a trip or wrestling camp or something like that. Vince's generosity is so undersold and so underpublicized, and it's that like that for a purpose, because he didn't want anybody to know. And if you would start to tell somebody what Vince did to you, he'd just cut you off and change the subject real quick. So his generosity toward anything, especially youth driven causes, he was wide open with his donations.
I ran a Make-A-Wish golf tournament down in Texas one time, and Vince told me, he goes, "I'm really proud of you for doing that. It's good." He goes, "I'm going to double whatever you raise." And he said, "The only caveat is," he goes, "I'm playing a bad guy on TV. You can't let anybody know that I did it." He goes, "You take credit for it." He goes, "I want you to take the full credit for everything." And that's how Vince is. I could tell you 100 stories of guys he's taken care of over the years, and causes that he's done, things he's funded. He's one of the most generous guys I've ever met.
Oh, that's beautiful. And side note, talking about how, you know, Mr. Brisco does so much for high school wrestling out in Tampa. There's a kid on the local news talking about his, they're asking high school kids at Sickles High School in Tampa, Florida, what are your New Year's resolutions? I don't know if you can see this right here, but what's this kid wearing on his shirt right there? He's got a Gerald Brisco.
I took the Brisco Brothers T-shirt all over the world. I took pictures all over the world. Brisco Brothers T-shirt.
Wow.
I had to buy it too.
Oh. And not only when they were all over the world, but when they climbing mountains, when he's a mountain climber, up to every summit peak, he had a bag of T-shirts. Of course,
that's right.
He would always slip a Brisco Brothers T-shirt on that mountain summit there. So the highest places on the ever continent.
Oh, that's so cool. I think I've seen a picture of that. That's so cool. Well, listen, we love it's so cool all that you guys do for the youth in the world. It's much respect. Next question, John Clifford, worst idea for Stooges. Was there something that you did or you were pitched and you're like, no, thank you?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Like, I even remember where it was at. John will remember the location. Spokane, Washington. You're out at a fairgrounds. It's cattle grounds out there. And what Stone Cold, one of the riders wanted Stone Cold to kidnap us, throw us in the back of a pickup truck, knock us out, and then go get a front end loader full of cow manure and dump on us in that bed of that pickup truck. And Pat was kind of looking at me, and I looked at Pat. Pat, I said, we'll smother underneath all that stuff, but we'll die, and I'll throw up all over you. And he said, we can't do that. And I said, no, we can't do that. We'll die. You know, well, we got a trap door. I said, what happens if that trap door don't work? You know, I can't get out of that trap door. Well, we'll get it out with the shovel. I said, you can't get it out that quick. So we shut that one down real quick. And even Stone Cold said, you know, that's a little strong there. And I said, yeah, it is. But he wanted to do it anyway, you know.
Guys, come up with ideas that are crazy. They had
the only thing.
They had a bunch of worms one time. They're going to drop out of the ceiling on me and Jillian. And I could care less about the worms. And we ended up in the worms rolling around all the time. I had no care about that. I said, what? I said, how much do they weigh? And they go, well, we don't know. It was like 300 or 400 pounds of worms. They were going to drop from 15 feet on our head. It had killed us. So, no, finally they had us move, and they dropped the worms behind us. Then we ended up falling in them and rolling around. Jillian Hall was awesome, by the way. But when they hit the ring, it shook the entire ring. It had killed them.
How isn't it wild when as the performer, all the people, like all the layers I had to get through to get to you, and you had to be the one to be like, this is not safe, I will die. It's not good for your business. It's good for ratings for one day, but then long term it's bad for business. Not best for business.
Back in those days, Taylor, everybody thought they were a comedian like you, you know. So all this would be great, but they never thought of the other side of it, or the talent. You know, that hits them. That's coming down pretty heavy, it'll squish them. But oh, it's funny though.
Right before I went through the ring, when Big Show chokeslammed me in the not the Hell in a Cell, the barbed wire steel cage match in Pittsburgh, and chokeslammed the top rope through the ring, and I came out from underneath the ring to beat him. And I said, I asked Ellis, who I love very much. I said, Ellis, he was our stunt guy, and he's great. And I said, Ellis, is this going to be okay? And he goes, I really think you'll probably be all right. And I said, you know how many caveats you just put in that sentence? So we did it. We tested it the night before. And I got up on the top rope, and Kevin Dunn calls down. He goes, stop, 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 stop. He goes, if John gets hurt, we got no main event. We got to have somebody else test it. So now I'm thinking, oh, this is great. So Finley was the agent. He had been at the pub. He'd come over it's like 11 o'clock at night when they got it set up. He comes over in a suit and gets chokeslammed by Big Show through the ring. No. He was the test dummy. And Finley nobody volunteered, and Finley goes, I'll do it. Finley gets up there in his suit, had a few pints of drink, gets up there and gets chokeslammed through the ring.
Oh my God. Your bodies must have so much pain. I just got a massage for like the second time in my life, and they go, what are your listen, I'm a mental athlete, but they go, what are your problem areas? And like, I felt bad. I didn't have a problem area. What are your problem areas? Do you guys have those? Is it just everywhere? Top to bottom.
Yeah.
Oof.
It is what it is. I don't know what a guy my age should feel like healthy. So it is what it is.
Oh, interesting.
What should you feel like? I mean, yeah.
That's right.
You just know what you know. Yeah, good. Well, thank God. Good. I'm glad everyone's healthy here. I meant that from my heart. Okay. I sound sarcastic when I'm being genuine. It's not good. Ron Motz says, what makes a good story or character into a great one?
Mr. Brisco?
Well, I think what makes a good character storyline is a personal storyline, and it's a storyline that can relate to the masses, not to just a certain group of people, that everybody can relate to, and everybody can get those feelings, either great feelings or sad feelings, whatever the character is aiming for, is that. But it's got to be personal, and not only got to be personal, but it's got to be something within the guy's personality and within his soul. You can't, like John, the smartass, smartass Texan. He's that way. I mean, that's John. That's not a character. So when you can get that close to a character as JBL was to John, then you got the perfect character. Or Brother Love, because Brother Love thinks he thought he was an old Southern evangelist preacher. So Brother Love and Bruce Pritchard, that character was one and the same. So. And Godfather, and Charles, right? They're the same character, So you get that character within you. Then you don't have to think about what lie I'm going to do. They just come naturally because they're inside of you. So anything that you can get personal with is a great character to me. John, how about you?
Killer Tim Brooks used to always tell me Killer was a great heel, and I used to ride with Killer, who's really took me under his wing about how to be a heel, but it works also for a babyface. He'd always say, when people take away your character and just dislike you, he said, that's when you've won them over. So when people look at it and not say that person's playing a great character, but they believe that person in the ring is actually you. And either whether it's suspend belief, you want to sit there and watch a movie and believe that the guy and the bastard of the Game of Thrones is a real person for a while because you want to see him die, whatever that is. But whenever you take away that veil and you make people believe that what you're doing is really you, and in wrestling, I think it's a little bit different because they see outside the ring too. And there's so much more you can do on social media now that to me is when I think a storyline or an angle has a chance of going from just something regular to something huge, because now people buy into it. Jerry's seen a million of these guys, like Johnny Valentine. They may not believe everything else. They're going to believe I'm real. And he had working matches too. But when Thez would come out, when Johnny Valentine would come out, when stars would come out, everything changed. You know, Brock Lesnar comes out, Bobby Lashley. I saw those guys have a break apart the other day on some fight. And everything changed when that happened. People bought into that because they believed in them. And I think that's when you take that veil away from that person's playing a character, that person's playing a heel, that person's playing a babyface, to that's the person. And you either like them or you don't. I think that's when you have a chance for a storyline to take off.
Very cool. Matt Livingstone says, why did you cancel the 7 Summits Challenge?
Oh, a great question. I was two things. I was climbing a mountain in California for training. I was in Palm Springs. I used to go there and train on some mountains. I was in Colorado Springs and train in mountains when I'd get ready to go climb a big mountain. And I made a little summit. It's a little short mountain, like a 4-hour climb up to like 10,000 foot mountain, maybe in San Jacinto. And I got to the top, took my selfie. And as I stepped off the summit, I stepped in some dark ice that you couldn't see. And I fell about 10 feet and knocked myself out. Got a little bit lost in the mountain because I was a little disoriented. But I ended up having to have surgery, and I was out for that whole summer, the climbing season. And then I believe that this time frame was right. That's when Jerry Lawler ended up also having the heart attack in Montreal for looked like the same type of injury that the NFL player had, the heart thing. And so I had to go back to work. So I'd love to go back and climb some mountains, but it kind of snowballed on me with the injury, and then also going back to work.
Wow.
How many summits did you get in, John?
3. I had 3 of the big ones. I had one in Anaconda down Aconcagua down in South America, Kilimanjaro in Elbrus, which is in Russia, but actually is the largest in Europe. So I was going to go down to Antarctica next and climb Vincent down there, and then try Denali, which is about as tough as Everest in Alaska. And if I made Denali, then I was going to try Everest.
That's amazing.
I still want to go back and try. I don't think I have the ability, especially as I've gotten older, to make Everest. I'd like to go up and see how far I can get. If I can make it to Camp 3 or 4, I think I'd be pretty happy with that. I don't think I have the ability to get all the way up, but I'd love to try and go through the Khumbu and see, and be on Everest. I think it'd be cool.
I just went skiing for the first time in 20 years. And we went up what do you call it? What's the ride you go on to go to the top of the mountain?
The ski lift?
Yeah, that was exhausting for me.
Who did you run into a mutual star out there? What star did you run into?
Oh, my good friend Mel Gibson was skiing next to me.
Yeah. Did he know you were Jewish?
Gerald, I'm in show business. I can't be talking about these things in public. I think as a Jew, I forgive him, and I look forward to being in the next Lethal Weapon movie.
There you go.
I have no self-respect.
You told me you love Mel Gibson. You told me he was so nice to you. That's wonderful.
Oh, we hung out all day and we exchanged phone numbers. We're MySpace friends now. It's really great. It's really special. 2 more questions. We got time for 2 more questions, everybody. Next question from Eddie Larinen. We kind of talked about this, but I'd love to know more. Are wrestlers characters or extensions of themselves? The successful ones.
The successful ones, I think they're extensions of themselves. I think you've got to be, as we talked to earlier about what makes a good character. What makes a good character is one that you can latch onto and become. And I think if they don't start out that way, I think they become that way. And when you can always tell when a guy's given a character that's just not him. It just doesn't come off either in the working area department of it or the middle area of it, which means the promos and the stuff that you got to do outside the ring. I think you've got to buy into it 100%. And if you're not comfortable with it, Vince was great like that. Vince could see it right away and start tweaking the character until you were comfortable with it. So I think it's got to be one and the same now.
I agree. We're not Al Pacino or some of these great actors. Those guys are trained in doing movies forever. We're guys that have to go out there in some type of simulated real life situation for a live crowd all the time. And so I think it's so much easier if the character is an extension of yourself. I think most of the great money draws in the past good grief, 50 years or more, have all been extensions of themselves.
But can I tell you though, like you're being modest, saying I'm not some great actor or whatever. I'm not those guys. A lot of actors playing themselves is the scariest thing to them. And like when you go out there, like I have some stammer sometimes or whatever, and you're so eloquent, you're so spot on, you're so confident.
Thank you,
like,
thank you.
Yeah, I was talking. That's who I was talking to. You're right. I'm just like, okay. Mr. Brisco. Like when you got just stunned by Stone Cold Steve Austin, I was like, wow. Like I believed it. But playing. I mean, you too, Gerald. When you cut those promos, like you guys, I'm blown away by your one takes and live audience. Here you go. That's absolutely terrifying to me. Like even as a comedian, I tell a joke, I can take a pause. I can tell a joke, I can take a pause. You're giving a speech that you probably came up. You had bullet points, and it's from your soul, and and you have to get reactions. You're not just talking. You're not giving a monologue. It's a monologue mixed with you have to get them to evoke feeling and make them care about the match they're about to watch later that day or months from now. Like it's terribly impressive.
I got to get props. I got to get props to my partner JBL there. I mean, a lot of times, we're doing changeover in between shows or something like that. Vince will throw a microphone to John and say, "Go out and entertain the crowd. You got 5 minutes, brother." That's any material. You just go out and entertain the crowd, and you be yourself. And John or whoever can take it was only like 4 or 5 guys that Vince would trust that microphone to in between shows because he didn't want to lose the audience. But John would go out there, and man, he would start just right off the top of his head. So you got to be spontaneous. You got to keep on score there. And our guys that we had were so talented in doing that, right, John? I mean, that's
unbelievable.
Yeah, thing to do.
Yeah. And there's so many guys that could do that, and so many guys would get a script right before they walked out. I mean, you got a 10-minute promo, and you get it 5 minutes before you walk out. It's insane that these guys have the ability to be able to memorize it, hit it, and do it well. And so many times when you tell a guy because something goes wrong in the show, entertain the crowd for 5 minutes. You're not planning on it. All of a sudden, you're given a microphone, and you got to be on the next second and do it. And then we have so many guys.
You got to think about your match too.
That's right. You got to think about your match. You got all this
coming up after.
Yeah, you got all this stuff you got to memorize afterwards, and you still got to do this. I've always thought, Taylor, that professional wrestling, when I describe it to people, it's like 2 stand-up comedians. You don't know exactly where you're going to go. You have an idea. You don't just go out there with no idea, but you have an idea. And you know what kind of has worked in the past, but you're playing off each other and playing off the crowd. And so that creates the dynamism that crowds, I think, get to, and why they're so interactive with the 2 guys that are sitting there feeding off each other and feeding off the crowd. It's a very unique entertainment. I think the only thing like it to me is stand-up comedians.
Yeah, there's so many parallels, also the lifestyle and all that too. But what's fascinating too is from the performer perspective is you're trying to get over with a crowd who may not have come to see you specifically. They may have came to see you, but they may also, some of them came to see The Rock, some of them came to see Trish Stratus or whatever. And you still have to, your job is to get all of them. You can't just go, well, I got people who came to see me, whatever. No, you have to appeal to your people. Then you have to appeal to people who, also the TV tape, you're appealing to people who haven't watched the show. They haven't kept up with the storyline. Some people might not know who you are. They might be like, oh, I'm bringing my kid to wrestling I used to watch growing up. So you have to appeal to all these people coming from different, it's terrifying. I could just pass out thinking about it. That sounds terrifying, but you do it. And do you feel that now, by the way, coming back? Like, do you, I mean, I feel like your character is so classic that it can appeal to people who don't know you from your years of wrestling, but are you conscious of, does it come up in your head? Like, am I trying to appeal to people who didn't watch, haven't gone back and watched, or?
I assume, I think when I go out, I assume they don't know me. I assume they don't know me and don't know my history. So a lot of times I will, I haven't been back on TV that long. So a lot of times I will kind of state who I am first. And part of that's braggadocious JBL. Part of that though is a little bit of education, and then going to the promo. And so I'm trying to get every single person out there to react one way or another.
So interesting.
That was a great question. I'd like to follow up with that question too, John. In the years, 5 or 6 years, however many years it was, have you noticed the crowd has changed? Do they still buy what they bought when you were cutting the original JBL promos, or do you have had to tweak it a little bit?
I had to tweak it because now I think you got to take them on they're more into the business. Not that fans, 10 years ago were dumber. I think the fans now are more into the behind the scenes stuff of the business. So I think you got to work harder about taking them on a route to get them to where you want to go. Whereas before, I think back in 2004, 2005, you could almost go straight there and get to where you wanted to be. Now I think you got to take them on a little bit of a route, a little bit of a circle, bring them around, and then take them where you want them to be, and then make them evoke an emotion in them at that point of what you want. But to get there, you got to have some type of setup now. I think the setup now is a little bit harder.
Last question.
And also, Jerry, I think the one thing that people talk about a lot about the stuff nowadays is I think a lot of times to do that, you got to be able to create some gaps in your performance to work. Whether that's a promo, whether it's a match. I think that's where any young person has problems, because you don't know how the crowd's going to react. So you got to build your promo with certain tent poles that you're going to hit, but also with gaps in there to see how the crowd's going to react, because you really got to feel them at some point and see if they're buying what you're doing. If not, you got to have a couple different alternatives to go to pretty quick.
Stand up is the same too. That's how I work. Is I have, well, if they laugh at this, I'll keep going with this. If they don't, I'll skip to this. And right. Yeah, you have to do it on live television. If my thing goes bad, I'm just in a nightclub somewhere, no one knows it ever happened. I'll deny it. No one knows. I'll be like, that never happened. You're crazy. You're drunk. What's wrong with you? Yeah. Last question from Michael Gastonquay. What is an element of wrestling missing? What element of wrestling is missing most today? What's wrestling missing?
Mr. Brisco?
Wow, what's missing today? That's a hard question, but what's missing today? Without, the personal stuff, I think, back in our days, we had clear mind who was heel and who was babyface. Today, it's just more convoluted, more crowded in there. There's a lot more clouds. You can't really tell good from bad. And that was one of the things we're always taught, you're a good guy or you're a bad guy. And don't try to play the middle of it. Sometimes I watch TV and I see guys trying to play the middle of it because they want to sell their shirts and they want to sell the merch or whatever. And they're playing the middle road. I think you got to declare that. Guys like Layfield and guys like the good solid heels, they didn't mind being heels. Randy Orton, when he's a heel, he's a full-blown heel. He don't give a damn about babyface. He don't give a damn about selling a T-shirt or anything. But when he's babyface, he's a full-blown babyface too. He's a great character either way. But I think it's so convoluted and in the fans' mind too. Well, last week he was out here saying how great we are, and now he's telling us what kind of jerks we are. So I think that's missing where a character is a character, true and true. I think that's missing a little bit in our business today.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's emotion, and I think that's saying the exact same thing that Jerry's saying is it's emotion, over movement, as Steve Kern would say. But I got to understand, it's not just this generation. People say, well, we need more guys like Shawn Michaels or Eddie Guerrero or Bret Hart or Undertaker. We didn't have a bunch back then. we had one Shawn Michaels. We had one Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah.
We had a bunch. We didn't have like 20 Undertakers back then. We had one, and he was awesome. And yeah, you'd love to have 20 of them, but we didn't have them then either. I mean, you got some incredible talent now. I mean, I've sing the Usos praises every time since they walked in the business. Roman Reigns and Miz. I mean, there's some. I could go down the list of guys that I think are super uber talented. But I think the mistake that the guys make that aren't getting over, and that's in any generation, is its emotion is missing. You know, you're so worried about, I want to feel a match, I want to feel a promo, I want to feel this, and I got it all memorized, but you don't allow spots in there to work, to be a character, like Jerry's talking about. You know, I know you can do a drop kick. A million guys can do a drop kick. A million guys do a super kick, and a million guys do. But if you do it at the right time, it means so much. You know, Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon had what people say maybe the greatest ladder match of all time. They didn't do anything compared to what the Hardys and Edge and Christian and the Dudleys did. But the emotion was there. And the emotion was there. Not taking away from anything those great tag teams did, but the emotion was there so much. They didn't bring the ladder in the match for about 7 or 8 minutes because emotion was there. You got to make people care. You know, Vince used to always tell me in the headset, I know that's a drop kick. This isn't radio. Why did he do the drop kick, and why do I care? And that to me is the one thing that you got to have for some character or match to get over.
Wow. And that's the first not mean thing I've ever heard someone say that Vince said in the headset. That's exciting too. That's very thoughtful.
I'm going to tell you this: Vince never said one mean word to me. Not one. And I screwed up. I screwed up a lot. I mean, one time he told me not to say something, and literally, I forgot. And spur of the moment, I said it. He never snapped. So I came back. I said, Vince, I'm sorry. You told me not to say it. I said it. He goes, no big deal. You know, I owned up to it. But Vince not one time ever said a mean word to me in the headset. Wow. Or to Lawler or to Booker T.
Wow, this is some scoops. This has got to be. If they don't take these clips and the scoop and put them on the internet where they get paid for the quotes from your podcast, then I don't know what's going on in this world. That's some scoops.
If they don't, it's all Dave Silva. Dave Silva is the guy that.
I blame him for all my problems, honestly. Listen,
he's probably a problem for my issue with the internet was Dave Silva, because Dave Silva told me to call Spectrum. I called Spectrum. They were out my house, invaded my house, 2 guys for 3 hours, and didn't fix my internet. So, Dave Silva, you told me to call Spectrum. I called them. So,
yep, Dave Silva.
JBL, do you ever talk to this guy? Everyone's out to get him. Every time I talk to him, TSA Pre-Check's out to get him. Spectrum's out to get him. Chick-fil-A's out to get him. Everyone's out to get him. I don't know. Like, you're heel, man. What did you do?
I love it. I'm a heel. I've been partner with JBL for 2 years.
That's what happened. Listen, I think we're done. I think we did a great job. I'm so grateful I got to do this. We have a million questions left. I'd love to do this again if you'd have me. And thank you to both of you.
We'll see what our ratings are, Taylor.
That's fair.
Taylor, fair. I think in all honesty, you're the greatest comedian in the history of the world.
Listen, I got to put that in my bio. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me in my headsets. Thank you so much. That's an honor. I'm such a fan of both of you, you know, and then I got to know you as people, become friends as people, and you're such good, kind people, and this is such a joy. I know you guys get it. I mean, you grew up watching Brisco, now he's your friend, and then I grew up, you get it. And now you guys are excited to be friends with me. It's really special for you too. Wow, we're all happy. We're also blessed, you know.